Yeah, I found Alex through your show.
Oh,
So
cool.
yeah, so
I
that's
love
how
that.
that happened. Yeah, so I was Googling and doing my own work trying to make the transition, and I was like, okay, PR and Chicago, because I'm from Chicago, so I was like, do I find places in Chicago? Do I go to San
Yeah.
Diego? What do I do? And actually came across PRGirl series, and I was like, great, this is exactly what's happening. This looks amazing. And here we are 2 years later. So
That's awesome because, you know, as the creator of PRGirl and, you know, you're so focused on making it and putting it out there. And then now we're in the phase of just trying to grow the audience and have more and more people find out about it here and in the UK, that I don't get to meet people or talk to people who just like randomly find the show the way that it's intended to be found, and then make connections, because publicists are great at making connections, and then the things that come of it. So that's really fantastic, because sometimes it could just be like, does anyone care? Does anyone really care that we've made this show and it's out there? But it's good to hear those stories, because there are people like yourself and like the millions others of you who are either wanting to get into the industry, already in it, trying to look for connections, etc. And then you find a show like ours, and then it's positive too, right? It's not like ratchet, like, you know, reality shows can be, right? And sometimes I'm conflicted about that, because I really want it to be like positive energy for women and not like, you know, all the other stuff that's out there. But that does sometimes require a more grassroots, like slower growth, because people run towards accidents and ratchetness and crazy, right? But if things are beautiful and peaceful and inspiring and like encouraging, sometimes you almost have to convince people to run in the direction of those things. And it's like, what's wrong with everybody? Wouldn't you want that in your life?
Yeah, absolutely. So what was your vision behind PRGirl series, and why you just woke up one morning and like, you know what, this is what I'm going to do?
Yeah. Well, it wasn't that easy. I would say, so the first version of my production company, What Are You Wearing, wasn't even, my intention wasn't to create a production company. It was to have like a digital media company. You know, I wanted to have a website where I was like the editor-in-chief, taking the magazine industry to the next level and creating websites like, you know, Refinery 29 and things like that. When they were popping and everyone was on that, I was thinking, you know, this is great. You know, we can read articles here, we can watch videos, we can learn things, be inspired, but it's like, you know, curated by white people, it's financed by white people. And then we all know what happens. The content winds up getting, you know, whitewashed, even if they think they're making it for all women. It's not for all women, and they don't realize that. And I wanted to kind of solve that problem for us, for the modern, you know, woman. And I had a team of fashion editors. We were producing a podcast. We were making videos, and we had great content, but it was super hard to attract the millions of people that we needed to come to the website every day to start making money off of the website, right? Through ads and partnerships and all that kind of stuff. So it was during that time where video was really, okay, it was like cemented. Video is like our lives, and everyone would rather watch a video than read anything. So I was spending time thinking about what is like a really good, juicy piece of video content that I can create and produce and put out there as an attempt to attract that audience that I was looking for. And in that thought process, that kind of strategy think tank is where I came up with the idea for PRGirl, because I knew the What Are You Wearing audience really well from curating content and being an editor-in-chief for a few years in that space, and knew that our audience was, like I said, a young modern woman who was career driven, who wanted inspiration, and probably didn't have real life examples of a woman that was doing all the things that they wanted to do, right? We want to be seen as smart, intelligent. We want to make money. We want to be financially independent, but we're also women. I want to be sexy. I want to be beautiful. I want to have kids. I want to do all the things, right? And growing up, I didn't have a person besides Claire Huxtable, who's not even a real person, right? To look up to and be like, I want to be Claire Huxtable.
Yes, that's
so it was all of that combined that I was like, why don't I find some real women who are doing real life stuff? They're in PR. They're all that stuff that I listed, right? Intelligent, kicking ass in their field, making money, independent, and a woman too, right? Beautiful, sexy, not afraid to just be all the things that we know we have the ability to be, and then put their lives on display in the best way that I could think to do in season 2, and tell their story more and have it be positive, right? No fighting. We didn't create any fake drama. The drama, if anything, was, the personal stuff that we all go through, and, professional things like day-to-day client events, switching jobs, trying to get J-Lo to wear a pair of, earrings, right? Yeah. It's like those kind of things that most people who are, even if you are in the PR world, you might not be in those really cool situations every day. So it's entertaining and educational.
Yeah,
so that's how I came up with the idea.
Yeah, awesome. So especially for me, being a newbie in the industry and not really knowing anything, really just, you don't really need to create drama in PR for one.
No.
Like, it's already embedded. Like, you don't really need any extra sauce for that.
Yeah.
And so I really appreciate you being proactive and really being able to showcase positivity, like you said, and like, we don't need any more female drama out in the universe, especially not with Black women, and the propaganda, the media is hell-bent, rest in peace Breonna Taylor, on dehumanizing Black women, and creating this narrative and perpetuating the narrative that we are less than, we are not as special as, we are not as pretty as, and it's just not the truth. So
it's not the truth. And I'm glad that you bring that up, because that's really important to me. As a Black woman, obviously, but as a mother of 2 Black girls, and being in the space that I'm in as a business owner and an entrepreneur, and with a little tiny bit of a spotlight on me, in the sense that it's not easy to own businesses and run businesses and grow them and have all the pressure that comes with. But when it starts to feel heavy at times and a lot, it's really exactly what you just said that kind of keeps me going every day. It's like, if I'm not waking up every day on purpose, debunking the narrative that other people have created for us, not just for me personally, but for the youth of the world, for my daughters, for all of the Black girls out there who, unfortunately, and I was in this club, we start to believe all the bullshit that people tell us, right? And some of it hits differently, but you start to believe some of these things, and it needs to just be stopped, right? And the more positive, truly reflective content we can be a part of, not just put out there, right? But just if I wasn't the creator of the show and other things that I'm working on making real, we just need to be in the room, right? We need to be in the room. We need to be a part of the decision making. We need to be a part of the creative process, because in that comes the real reflection of who we are. And what I would say, for the broader audience, because I know you guys have a lot of people, different, all walks of life that follow you, is that it helps tell the full story of who women are, right? Like, if we're talking about women, then it should be a true collective of us, like, telling the story of women, right? Because a Black woman's experience in this world is very different than a white woman's, very different than a Latina, very different than, our Chinese sisters and the rest of our Asian sisters. It's just like, we're all sisters, but we have different obstacles and we're treated differently out in this world. So let's just come together finally. Like, can we be one big girl gang? Like, I know that's what Beyonce's point was. I'm like, I thought who else? Like, if Beyonce can't get it done, I don't know. I don't know. So I'm doing my little part.
I completely agree. For me, I have to turn like spiritual, because I truly believe if people would just turn inwards, they will see and recognize and notice and become aware that we are so much more alike than we are different. First of all, the fact that this is the most mystical thing about it. The fact that women who have never met each other, when they get around, say like a camping trip, the menstrual cycle stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Girl,
Yeah.
how else do you need what other explanation do you need that we are on the same thing here?
Yeah. Yeah.
I've never met you a day in my life, and then I spend a few hours with you, and then all of a sudden my body syncs up with yours. Girl,
we're magic, and we're all magic. Literally, we are magic. And you know, I think that one of the issues is that there's hierarchies, again, that were created by men and other people, that classism, and all the isms that exist, that have made it this way, where, you know, the ideal of beauty or the ideal of this, most of it is curated from the media and just, you know, honestly, just white supremacy, all the stuff that's built into our system for everyone to think this is beautiful, this is right? And a lot of times when we talk about women, it's the white woman who's skinny and blonde and big boobs and like whatever. Okay, that's one version of beauty. What, to each their own. But beauty is universal, and there's different types of it. And I think when we can start to acknowledge and accept other people's definition of things as to our own definition of things, then that's when, you know, we have something, right? And so that's kind of how I spend my time. You know, we either are swamped during COVID and working from home and all this stuff, or we're finding peaceful moments to like contemplate these kind of things. And for me, honestly, it just depends on the day. Like one day I'm telling people, I sent out copy and pasted like 15 emails this morning for a board that I'm on. But I was like, some days I'm surviving and some days I'm thriving. Like it just depends on the day.
It depends. You never know.
But you know, if we all could just figure out how to see the beauty in other things, like I'm trying to spend time doing, it's like, oh, I see that beauty, right? I appreciate it. My beauty looks different, and I just want to be seen and appreciated the same way we have been looking and seeing and appreciating other people's beauty.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So as a mother of two beautiful Black girls, so do you want them to be editors-in-chief too? Or like, are you kind of holding back? Are you like?
You know, so it's funny. If you ask them, which I will not get them because they will take over this interview. If you ask them what I do for a living, my 5-year-old will just say, "Mommy's the boss." Like, she doesn't really know what I do. She'll say, "Mommy's the boss, advertising and PR girl." Like, she knows that PR girl. And I'm like, yeah, okay. Like, that's enough, right? She gets it. My 7-year-old gets it a little bit more. So what I want for them, though, is just the freedom to be able to decide what they want to do and what they want to be, who they want to be. And I think as business owners, my husband and I, like we have a really unique view on life. And if something isn't already created that suits you or fits your current needs or how you want to live life, then it's super easy for folks like us to just like mentally manifest it and then make it real in real life. Nice. So if I want them to do anything like how I do, it's that. It's like, I want you to be able to see the holes, right, in your life, whether it's personally, professionally, whatever it is, and then manifest the things to fill those holes. And we do it in a business sense, right? I can't speak for my husband, but like I do it in like a spiritual sense, right? A personal sense, just like getting to know myself better, work on myself, be a better version of myself every day. So that's what I want for them. But they're both super creative. I mean, they can't help but be, because
Yeah, right.
their parents are entrepreneurs. Their mom, you know, runs an advertising agency and has a production company and is taking pictures, filming, directing, you know, so it's like it's built in around them. But I tell my friends all the time when they wonder like what my girls think about me, I'm like, what does Blue Ivy think about Beyonce?
Right.
Nothing. She's like, hey mom, like it's not a
Right.
big deal. So
Yeah,
I also get a lot of that in my house.
that's funny. I'm so sorry. Hold on 1 second. Oh, I am supposed to be on Do Not Disturb. Oh Lord, what's happening here? Oh, there we go. I'm so sorry about that.
That's okay.
We'll edit that out. But just,
Yeah.
but you know, actually, we're going to be doing clips of the videos, but we're going to turn it into a podcast.
Oh,
so
fun.
The audio will be there because, you know, I feel like it's people are a little more, you know, in the background, cleaning up, listening to some good Black girl magic conversation.
Yeah.
You know, nobody wants to sit and look at the screen all day.
No,
So
between work and everything else, I'm so over screen. Like screen now is work, right? And it's good work a lot of times, but it's
yeah,
still now work.
yeah, it is. So let's talk about the company. So when did you start your company, and can you tell me a little bit about what it took to build up into that point? So yes, PRGirl is where I saw, and I was like, oh my God, who is this lady? But it didn't happen like that. So from the beginnings, where were your humble beginnings?
Yeah. So I started my first company, my advertising agency, 12 years ago. It'll be 12 years in November.
Wow.
Yeah. So
that's amazing.
it is
in business.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy because so it was 2008. It was Obama was literally the same day Obama became president. I got my paperwork in and I was like, look at us, Black people, look what we doing, right? We got a Black president, I got a business. And then like, you know, the honeymoon phase kind of settled in and I was like, okay, this is the real deal. And I had to really, you know, the economy was crashing. It was a lot going on, but I think that again, back to just like, I had a lot of holes in my life at that time, professionally. The company I was working for was going bankrupt. There was a lot of just unsurety in the world. And I was young enough still to pivot hard into something else. And if it failed, it would have been okay, right? It would have been okay. I could have gotten a job somewhere. I was engaged to my now husband, so he was going to make sure I wasn't going to starve, right? Like it was okay. Everything was okay. And my background is in communications, advertising. That's what I majored in school. So I had been selling advertising for a few years leading up to this point, both in New York, where I'm from, and then here in Chicago. And then the economy hit, the company was falling apart. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna just move out of this, sit in my living room, get a laptop, and start servicing my clients that I already had, but just doing it through my own business. And the idea, actually, the little birdie that whispered it was my husband. And it was the most brilliant thing that I had ever heard. Like when it came out of his mouth, I was like, yes, I can just text the people that I have spent the past, let's say 5 years, developing professional relationships with and see if they would use me as my own entity. And enough of them said yes, where I felt comfortable doing it. And I started in my living room and just grew it from there, literally 12 years ago. And it's been a challenge for sure. You know, I didn't go to business school. A lot of this is my instincts, my gut, also thinking about it outside of myself, where I still to this day think about RLM, my agency, as some woman, some fabulous Black woman owns this agency. Yes, that's me, but she hired me to run it, right? So it's my job, especially in the beginning, it was my job to run this agency, grow it, and nurture it. And so how would I go about doing that if I were working at a place that had 10, 15, 20 employees? And that's where I started. If I had a CEO and they came to me and said, Farissa, how do you think we should run this business? and listened to me as an employee, I just started putting those types of things in place, and it was working, right? It was like from the really, and before I started my company, I don't know if I would have said this 12 years ago, but I know today, I was a bomb ass employee. Like I worked hard. I do all these things still. That's why I'm here, right? But I was a hard worker. I took a lot of pride in what I did. I didn't do any shortcuts. I was that quintessential employee that people could depend on. And I brought that same work ethic to my company, but then also thought, like, what would I want if I was in charge? How could I make all these things better from all the places that I had worked as an employee? I knew what the problems were, right? Because I was a young enough employee with enough experience at that time. So the agency, I grew it, I made mistakes, I learned from them, I grew some more, made some mistakes, whatever. And in that first 5 years or so was when I was like riding high and was like, oh, I can start What Are You Wearing, right? Because, oh, I know how to start companies. I can just do it again. Like, what's the big deal? Which is insane. It's literally insane. And so it took a little longer to get to a place with What Are You Wearing that it made sense, right? Like now with What Are You Wearing being a production company, it's solidly where it's supposed to be, where we can be creative, we can make ideas for television shows, hopefully one day films in the documentary space. And I'm working on just building those relationships so that when we have those ideas and things to pitch, that I can take them to the likes of larger production companies in LA to partner with, or Netflix or HBO, or all these folks who are desperately looking for content, right? Because all of us, we subscribe to all these streaming platforms, and this is how we consume our content every day. So that is sort of my journey of how I started the first company, why I thought I was invincible and can start a second company. And then like life took over, and I was, we got married, I had the kids, and I had to just figure out how to manage and juggle all those things at the same time. But now with my ad agency being as mature as it is, I'm now lucky enough to not just approach it from the CEO's perspective, but I can now start thinking about it from the owner's perspective and remember, oh, I am the owner of RLM Media. What does she now want? Because I don't, as the owner, I'm not necessarily interested in being the CEO forever.
Right.
And so I'm working on that plan there of how do I transition into that next phase of just owning an advertising agency and then also being a director and a producer.
Wow, that is amazing. That's some good insight because, a lot of times we can't see things outside of ourselves. So we continue to make decisions in a vacuum. Mm-hmm. And I think you have to have that in order to grow. Now you can keep being a, level 1 CEO if you want. But in order to expand and really in order to just grow relationships and build your business brick by brick, you have to have some self-reflection. You have to have a level of awareness that it might not be the easiest, pill to swallow, but really just being able to, like you said, see outside of yourself and grow the business from another person's perspective. What would this person do? And I like that, having like this little avatar. It's me, but not really. So.
Yeah. And I still do that. And I think that's helped in my professional journey overall because, we all wear many hats, right? No matter if you're an entrepreneur or you have as many things going on as I do, like we're daughters, we're, girlfriends, we're friends, we're a lot of things. And when you can solidly know all the hats that you want to wear and be conscious about which hat you're wearing when, then that is really where the magic happens. So that's how I balance my life. Because when I talk to people like you and I hear my words come out of my mouth, I'm like, what? Like how? And none of it is a lie. How am I doing all this? Because I'm not really thinking about it that much in real time. I have figured out my process and I just run my process. And that is literally just being available and present to the thing or the person that I'm with in this moment. Yeah. So like, for this conversation, I'm not doing anything else besides talking to you, right? So that allows me to give you 100% of myself, give your audience 100% of me, and be here in real time and present. And then when we're done, I'll go back to being the CEO and killing my inbox, right? Or doing the next to-do item on my list. And when I'm done with that, I'm Chloe and Isabel's mom, and I'm focused on what they want to do and how they want to hang out before it's bedtime. And then I'm Leary's wife, right? And then, so it's like boom, boom, boom. And I need to be Farissa for Farissa sometimes, right? I just need to be like, everybody, mommy needs a minute, leave me alone.
Yeah.
And do what I need to do to, like, you know, revive my energy or whatever. But that's how I've approached, honestly, the past, 12 years of my life.
Wow, that's good stuff. I'm writing that down right now, So when I can I'm running my company, I'm like 8 months in. So I got 11 more years to go.
I'm gonna tell you, that makes me tired. Hearing you say that, I'm like, woo, that's 11 years. That is fun, but it's a lot of work, right? And I think,
for sure.
Yeah. It's a fun journey. So just make sure to remember the fun parts while you're doing it.
Yeah. And like I said, I try to practice mindfulness, and I do, I meditate, and that's my form of practice. And, that's half the reason why I started the company, because of, I was in a situation where I was like, listen, girlfriend, like, you can do this, trust your instinct, trust yourself, trust your skills, we know you don't know, you didn't go to business school, but you're an excellent writer, and so on and so forth. And you have the skills, let's dig a little deeper and really try to understand, how you want to show up in this world, and what does your company mean, and what does it mean to run it? Like, I don't care about the title or label as CEO. That doesn't mean anything to me. It's a bunch of vowels and consonants put together. Mm-hmm. What matters is, how are you leading it mindfully in the world we live in George Floyd's America and Breonna Taylor's America? How do you want to show up? Yep. What conversations do you want to have? When we made the list for this, I was very clear about, okay, I want to speak to Black women about their lives and joy, and I don't want to keep talking about the trauma.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, I appreciate everything that you just said. So what's next?
Oh man, what's next? So I kind of, mentioned on the ad agency side, what's next? It's me, honestly, removing myself from more and more of the day-to-day of running the agency, and entrusting the ingenious, smart, executives that I've brought in, additional executives that I've brought in to jointly run this entity that I've created and nurtured over this time. And then that will give me the mind space, the head space to dive even deeper into directing and producing and creating, really just creating some things under my production company and some things under my personal brand, because I have my first book that I wrote, my memoir that's out, and I self-published a few years ago, and then was able to find a really great publishing company that I was able to do a hybrid model with, where I still own the rights to the book, but they helped me get it out into the world. And so that happened in February, like right before COVID hit. And I was going to be going here and there and doing book tours and stuff. And then, I, like everybody else, just stuck in my house. Yeah. So, but I have more books in me, and I have more television show ideas, and I have, just real life, I'm obsessed with real life. And I love the idea of the dynamics, the learnings, the inspiration that can just come out of two people sitting down and having a conversation, right? So my book is about my real life in my 20s. PRGirl is a reality show about 3 women, right? I want to do documentaries about real people who are inspiring and touched lives of people generations ago, and can do the same today if they were here amongst us. So I have all these things that I want to create, even hopefully creating a pitch for a television show based on my book. Like, that is my ultimate dream. So if I'm in a writer's room in LA one day, trying to figure out what the character Farissa would say to, whoever, that I will just pass out. I'll pinch myself. It'll just be the best day ever. So that's my thing that I'm working on in behind the scenes right now that hopefully can become real one day soon.
Yes, cross my fingers. We're going to push that out in the universe.
Yes.
Yes. So what do you do for self-care? I mean, you're doing so much. What is it that is just for you? No kids, no husband, no business, no mama, daddy, sister, grandma, nobody, just for you.
Yeah, I love that question. The biggest, realest thing that I do for me is I have one of the best therapists on the planet. This woman is, and she's not even a therapist. And I don't mean it in a negative way because therapy is fantastic, but she takes you through mindfulness practices, a lot of breathing exercises, techniques that really teach you, it rewires how your brain actually functions.
Yes.
And if people really understood, if more people, because people understand, but if more people understood how the simple act of breathing intentionally and the different types of breaths that we can do intentionally, we rewire how you think and react to this external world, and has the ability to heal. We were talking about traumas, heal the traumas and remind you of the traumas that you've forgotten about, and then heal you of those same traumas.
Yes.
That is honestly probably the best thing that I found. And it took a while. I've for a long time been a huge proponent of therapy, but as a Black woman, it's kind of hard to find a therapist that you feel you can really, really let all your guard down with and like talk about things, because part of what some of our traumas have been is based in the fact that we are Black, right? And that we are women. So I kind of needed a Black woman to really, really, really like take me there. And it took a while, but through a friend, through one of my close girlfriends, we were out one day having brunch and we were talking about this. And she was like, yeah, I have a therapist. I love her. And I was like, is she Black? And she was like, yes. And I was like, oh my God. Yes. Please hook me up. Because I actually have a friend who is a Black woman who is a therapist, but she's my friend, right? Yeah. So I didn't want to cross that line. I would rather have her as my friend than my therapist. Yeah. So anyway, so that's one thing that I do. And I highly encourage people to really look into it for themselves and not, especially Black people, we come from a long history of like putting that down, putting those kind of things down, and not seeing the value in it, and calling it all sorts of things like white people, do this, white people do that. Yeah. No, that's not a white person thing. Actually, we should just actually get rid of that in our speech, because a lot of times it's just stuff that we haven't had access to. Exactly. And that we haven't had the opportunity to really explore, but for all bunch of different reasons that we know about. But if you do have the opportunity to be introduced to it, do so with an open mind, because it can really make a huge impact on not just your life, but your family, how you raise your children, how you approach relationships, all that stuff.
Absolutely.
That's the biggest thing that I do. And it's really made a huge impact on my life. And I would say most, this year, like, I don't know how I would have lived through everything that's going on right now if I did not have that in my life. And then like everybody else, I get my nails done, I get massages, I try to get away and really understand what are the things in life that give me energy back. Because I spend a lot of time pouring energy into people and things and situations and rooms. It's my job to bring it. So I have to find ways to recharge. So it's, sometimes it's a manicure, pedicure. Sometimes it's getting my braids done. Sometimes it's honestly just going somewhere that's quiet and peaceful, and I can write, or I can listen to a book, or I can, just create something new of my own. So yeah, that's what I do. And I try to keep that as a part of my regular routine.
Yeah. Yeah. We get so caught up in, every day, we forget to breathe. And that just brings you back to the moment and brings you, for me, it's self-soothing. You learn all these type of things through meditation and through mindfulness practices. And, it's just truly has changed my life, truly. Yeah. From the inside out, because things just don't bother, because the world is so much bigger than you and your thoughts.
Yes.
And as soon as you get caught up in those ruminations, it's like you are bound to crash and burn quick, fast and in a hurry.
Yeah. And yeah, so it's good. And I wish that more of our people would really take it seriously and think about it, because there's more things we can do besides talking to our girlfriends or going to church or praying. This is just add this to it too. I think.
Yeah. One thing I will say though, I actually introduced my mother. I was like, Mom, let's just breathe on the phone. We can breathe in for 4 seconds. And she just thought it was the funniest thing. But then she said, wow, Gabby, this really works. And I was like, yes. Because she is a church going, hallelujah. And I said, you can still do that, Mother. But have you ever tuned into your body just to see how you checking in and how you feeling inside, outside of your skin, in there, And she said, okay, well, I'm getting off work, so we can go ahead and breathe. I'm like, okay, and it just brought us so much closer together.
That's awesome.
So, yeah.
That's an idea for an episode for you. You should do that, because there's a lot of girls, who, and I don't know, how old are you?
30. I just turned 30.
30. Okay. So I'm 39. And so there's a lot of girls in our age group who can relate to that, right? Because our moms are a different generation, obviously, than we are. And they think and act differently than we do, right? And introducing them to these kind of things, I'm sure you're not the first person to have the idea to do that, but you actually did it and you have a good positive result. And it'd be cool to interview your mom to see what she thinks about it. Because then it would probably encourage a lot of other 30-year-olds and even me, I'm like, oh, I've never thought to talk to my mom about this, because your mom, she's like, I'm in church.
Don't pray about it. But okay, never mind.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, Mom, whatever. Because I kind of went the other way since childhood. I'm in church every Sunday, but I'm sitting there thinking, this is nice, but it's not everything. It's not everything. And there's other ways to do things. And what we learn in church is not just exclusive to Christians. These are things that are true for whoever decides to implement them. Just like the breathing, it doesn't belong to us. It doesn't belong to just people who go to therapy. If you do this and you do it regularly, you will have the same effect. Just like having faith. If you have faith and you believe that you can accomplish something, right, no matter if it's murder or something positive, you'll be able to accomplish it, right? And so it's taking the concepts that we learn in church for most of us and just expanding them into how do we manifest that in real life and think even bigger about it, because it's bigger than religion. It's just how the universe works.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Well, thank you. This was way more than what I expected. I appreciate your practice. I feel like, I can just be open and honest, and thank you for sharing that with me. So
yes, you're welcome.
So much.
It's so funny. I want to tell you, your face, for me, you look like my college roommate. And I hope when this comes out, because I'm gonna be like, her name is Charmaine, and you look like when we were babies in college. Look like my
Charmaine.
Yes. Oh, I love that.
That's awesome. That's so funny. Yes. Well, thank you.